here, that Journey Chick over on Instagram, and I want to welcome you to another edition of Crafting and Crime Daily. We are covering the Alex Murdaugh trial. This is a show where I recap live trials while I am crafting. I know it's kind of a weird idea, but I've run with it. People like it. I love it. I enjoy bringing it to you. Today I am diamond painting. I am working on a dragon. I don't think you can, this is the wings of the dragon. I'm working on the dragon's head, which is off camera. You can't see it. But I have replaced the entire body of this dragon with Aurora Borealis drills. They're called drills. They're diamonds. We call them drills. And I work with a company called diamondpaintingdrills.com. I am an affiliate for that company, and Aurora Borealis is where they take the, regular acrylic drills and they put an iridescent coating on them. So you get this really cool sparkle. I don't know if you can see these whole wings are all Aurora Borealis. Now, the rest of the painting is not. This is all just regular acrylic resin drills, and these are the sparkly ones here. So every month Diamond Painting Drills comes out with a sale item. It's a special pack like this where you get 9 different colors of diamonds in the package, and they have the DMC number on the package. This month, Valentine's Day, so you can order, it's on sale every month. If you order them in these jars, you get about 600 per jar, but you can also order them in the packages that come like this. There's about 2,000 in the packages like this. So if you say that you want this sale item in the packages, you're going to get 9 packages. It's going to cost you a little bit more, but it's so cool. So I get this every month. And then when I start to do a diamond painting, I will sit down, I will look at the legend of the diamond painting, which is right here, and I will look at the picture and I'll get out all my sample packs and I'll see which diamonds I want to replace with the special diamonds. Yeah, the ones that really sparkle. So I love having these packs. So they're all pink for this month, like that. The link to this company is down in the description. If you follow that link, take a look at the store, see if there's anything else you like. If you buy 3 of these kind of packages, then you get 1 free. They're having a sale. Yes, here we are. Buy 3, get 1 free. And also every month she sends you like a little diamond sticker. It's usually themed for the month. This month I got a little pink love washi tape, for Valentine's Day. So just a little something gift from Alyssa, the owner. Okay, so that's the advertisement portion of the show. Pink, check them out. All right. These are the ones I've been using in this painting here. These different colors. And then when I thought I needed more, I ordered more. That's what you see here, the packages. All right, so let's talk about what happened yesterday at the Alex Murdaugh trial. Well, they started out by the cross-examination of the crime scene investigator from the day before that, came out with a raincoat. So we're just gonna gloss through that. I did talk about the cross-examination of her yesterday because I caught it before I went live with the show. So after her came Alex Murdaugh's paralegal. Her name is Annette Griswold. Now, we heard Annette Griswold. She was talked about by Jeannie Suckinger, the CFO, because it is really, Annette's kind of brought this to the forefront back in May. Annette describes, well, first of all, she talked about, her background a little, that she described Alex as a lawyer. Now, I should be diamond painting while I'm talking about this, right? Right, Rebecca? I just put fresh wax in the pen. That could be a mistake, but we'll see. So, she described him as a Tasmanian devil. She said he wouldn't come in. He didn't have normal hours. She said she said we would joke around that he would come. He wouldn't come in till 5 when we were ready to leave, and then he was like, running around like the Tasmanian devil, having everybody do this, do that, do this, do that, and very. We've heard other people describe him as frenetic, and her description seemed to agree with that, that he was she described his office as very cluttered, but he liked it that way. He didn't want anybody to touch his stuff. He knew where everything was. So, okay. She said that his personality did change after the killing, and we'll talk about that later. But his personality, she said, also changed after a boat crash. She said that it was really weighing heavily on him. He was being sued personally. She knew that. She said it basically just consumed him, consumed his life. I've never heard this saying that he had his ass on his shoulders. I'm not even sure what she meant by that, but she said that he would come in, he would be yelling at the staff and in anger almost, and it was very, very unusual for him. So this is the way he would act after the boat crash. She said he was on the phone a lot, and he did struggle to stay focused. She did agree on cross-examination by the defense that he was a family man, that he would give her time off when her husband had a heart attack, and then he passed away. He gave her time off with pay. She was there to take care of her ill father, and she needed to take her mom to the doctor, whatever. He'd give her time off. He was a family man, and she didn't disagree with that. So in May, she was home with because she had had surgery, and she gets a phone call from the accounting department about a disbursement check being written to a Forge. And she says, why is there a disbursement check being written? And, because she said she would do all the disbursements. And regarding this whole Forge issue, she said she's very familiar with, Forge Consulting, and there were many times when Alex would direct her on the disbursements to make the checks out to Forge. So, knowing that the company's actually called Forge Consulting, she would have the checks made out to Forge Consulting, and he would come to her and say, no, I don't want these made out to Forge Consulting. I want them made out to Forge. And then he explained to her that Forge Consulting was like the parent company, and they took care of all this other stuff, and Forge was just a subdivision of that company, so it had to be made out to Forge. So this paralegal would direct the accounting department to rewrite the check in the name of Forge. And then, so she would offer, when she'd get the check, she'd say to Alex, let me send this over to Michael Gunn, who's the guy that works for Forge Consulting. And he'd say, oh, no, no, I'm going to see him, and I'll just drop it off with him. And she said it really frightened her because she knows how disorganized he is, and she was afraid he was going to lose the check. But he would not. He would insist on all of these checks that were going to Forge that they be hand delivered. He wanted to deliver those checks. She gets the disbursement in this one case was being done by Chris Wilson's firm. Chris and Alex were working on this case together, and Chris Wilson is actually on the stand today. And this was a very close friend of his. She was expecting 4 checks because it was 2 cases. So she was expecting 2 checks to cover fees and 2 checks to cover expenses. So when she gets the disbursement documents, she sees that she only has 2 expense checks. So she calls up Chris Wilson's paralegal, and she says, where I've got these 2 expense checks, when can we expect the fee checks? And she says, oh, they've already dispersed the fee checks. When they did the disbursement, the attorneys took their fee checks. And she's like, Okay, so she called the accounting department thinking, well, maybe it just got by me, you know. So she called the accounting department of the firm and said, you know, do you have these fee checks? And they're like, no, we don't have them. And then she asked Alex about them, and he just said, oh, no, Chris Wilson's holding them. So she calls Chris Wilson's office back, and they're like, no, it was made out to Alex. The check was made out, well, she didn't know it was made out to Alex, but no, the check was given to Alex. So she goes to the CFO, and she says, you know, I don't know what's going on with these checks. And she says, I'll ask him, I'll take care of it. I'll ask him about it. So on June 7th is when the CFO goes into his office and finds out, you know, asks him, you know, please, you know, what's going on with the $792,000 fee check. And Alex tells her that Chris Wilson's holding it in trust. And she says, well, I think you took the check, and, you know, prove to me that you didn't take this check. And then all of a sudden he gets this phone call that his father's in the hospital. So the firm just kind of basically forgets all about, you know, and then later on the murders happened that day. So they kind of forget about this check for a while. Then on September 2nd, this paralegal testifies. She goes into Alex's office because she was looking for a file. And as she's looking on his desk for this file, a check floats down to the floor like a feather, she said. And she picks it up, and she sees that it's one of the checks in that, one of the fee checks that they had been looking for. And it was made out to Alex Murdaugh personally, or it was made out to forge. It was signed by Alex Murdaugh, and she saw that it had been mobile deposited into this Bank of America account. And so she knew right away that, you know, Alex had been lying about this check, that it wasn't at Chris Wilson's firm. He wasn't holding it, you know, because nobody had any reason to think she didn't have reason to think Alex would be stealing money. So when she finds this check, she's really, really upset, because now she knows Alex has been lying all along. And so she takes the check to the CFO, and the CFO says, you know, I just did, we were already on this. We did, they had been working with the accounting office to figure out all these forged checks. And so this kind of just confirmed everything. So Alex was fired from the law firm the next day. And this girl says she really feared retaliation. Her daughter had overheard the conversation, and her daughter actually told her mom, listen, Mom, you better start looking for another job, because they're probably going to fire you. She really thought that the firm would retaliate against her. And she mentioned that, you know, this is a small town. Mallory Beach was her second cousin. Anyway, she was married. She was somehow related to Mallory Beach, and people were surprised that she was still working for the law firm after the boating accident. And she said she tried to stay as far away from anything to do with the boating accident as she could, because she didn't want anybody to, you know, think that, you know, she just didn't want the conflict. So she just stayed away from anything that had anything to do with the boating accident. So right at the end of her testimony, the defense attorney says, I want to show you this document. And it's a email that Alec Murdaugh sent to this paralegal from rehab. When he was in rehab, it was like September 21st of the same month, same year. So he's, you know, she finds the check on September 2nd. He's fired September 3rd. September 21st, he sends her this memo from rehab, this email from rehab saying he's getting better. And the text actually says, quote, the worst part is I did the most damage to the ones I love the most. Now, there was some discussion about whether this was going to open the door to the opioid addiction coming in before the jury, and I think that by now that cat's out of the bag. I think it's the ship has sailed. I think the jury probably already, based on some other things that have been said, can figure out, hey, he was in rehab. It's either alcohol or drugs. So yeah. So then they put on the stand Michael Gunn. Michael Gunn is with the real Forge Consulting, and he explains that in the beginning. He talks about what Forge Consulting is. It's a firm that sets up annuities and takes the client's award of money or settlement amount of money, and they put it into an annuity account where it earns interest, and they disperse that to the client over time, to cover medical expenses and things. They get like a monthly check, and it also can be set up. The attorney's fees can be set up as an annuity to avoid tax consequences, and then they don't get their fees until they turn 65, and then there's no tax consequences. So he was given a list of clients by the law firm PMPED and asked, can you confirm that these are your clients? It was a list. They had gone through their records at PMPED, and they had pulled all the checks that were made payable to Forge, and they turned over this list of names, and Michael Gunn said none of these people were his clients. No, none of them. So we realized then this is a fake Forge account, and he was careful to say Forge, not Forge Consulting. So then they put on the stand a gentleman by the name of, I have it here, Dwight Vakovsky. I'm probably butchering that name. But anyway, he's describing his background, his education, and all of a sudden, the judge makes everybody leave the courtroom. There was a bomb threat. They had to clear the courthouse. I don't know what they did with the jury. I don't know where the jury went, but that was before lunch. So he said they were going to try to resume at 2:30. And they did. They resumed about 2:30, 3 o'clock, but they're all standing around, all these reporters and cameras for hours. And all the law and crime and court TV, they're all got their analysts on, and they're pontificating about what's going to happen if they find who did this bomb threat. What does this mean? And is this going to continue in this courthouse? And are they going to have a change of venue? And are the jurors going to be scared away? And it went on for hours. So, They actually had to wait for a bomb sniffing dog to come from another county, so the bomb sniffing dog comes, and they go through the entire courthouse. It's fine. They all come back in. Court resumes around 3 o'clock with the testimony of Dwight, and I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name again. And this testimony was painful for me. I had to I think it was painful. It was very, very difficult to understand. So this guy works for the FBI. So right before he testified, another guy gets up on the stand, and he worked for the SLED, and his job, he was only on the stand for 5 minutes, just to testify that he went to Alex's truck, the Chevy Suburban, and he took out what they're calling the infotainment center and the OnStar, and then it was turned over to the FBI because he said, I didn't have the tools to interpret these systems. Because usually, when you have a cell phone, for example, they have a program called Cellbrite that most law enforcement agencies have access to, and they can interpret the data from the cell phone using Cellbrite. Well, they didn't have any programs to interpret the data from this infotainment center and the OnStar. But the FBI did. So that's where this Dwight guy comes in. So he's here to tell us that he's developed this program that interprets the data from this infotainment center. First of all, I don't have an infotainment center, so I have no idea what this is. I have a cheap old radio. I don't have OnStar. I don't have infotainment But so he put it into a report that was easily understandable. Not really. But here's what, like at 12:33, there was, the phone was either not the phone, something was powering, the entertainment center would be powering up or powering down at certain different times. And there's a lot of things that could trigger this entertainment center to power up or power down as easily as like opening a door. Like if you go to the truck and you open the door, the system could start powering up. It doesn't necessarily mean that somebody got in the car and drove it. But the system would also tell when the vehicle had been placed in park or out of park. So it doesn't mean you were driving. It just means you took the clutch and you took it out of park. You could sit there with it out of park. Doesn't mean you were driving. Doesn't tell you who was driving, but the times were really, really interesting. So it's at 12:33 p.m. there was activity. So we know that his paralegal had already testified that on June 7th he got to work that day around lunchtime. So that coincides with this 12:33 activity on the infotainment center. At 18:23, it was taken out of park. That's at 6:23 p.m. And what this guy did was try to match up every time the truck would be taken out of park and put back into park. He would try to match up those times. So at 18:53, at 18:23, it was taken out of park. There was no time where it was put back into park that matched that. So we don't know what that activity meant. We don't know if the truck might have been driven somewhere at 6:23 p.m. At 18:53, which is just before 7 o'clock, and then 19:11, which is 11 minutes after 7 o'clock, the vehicle's registering. It's trying to power up, which could just be as simple as somebody came and opened the door. Then at 9:04, the system is starting up. At 9:05, it's still continuing to power up. 9:06, it's still continuing to power up. At 9:06:49, the vehicle is running. There's different things that this information could tell you, but so it could tell us here that the vehicle's running. At 9:06:50, the vehicle is taken out of park. It is placed back into park at 9:22:45. So roughly 16-minute time period. So that matches up to the time frame where he said he woke up and he went and drove to Alameda to see his mom. So I guess it was a 16-minute drive to get there. So at 9:43, it's taken out of park again. So between 9:22 and 9:43 are 21 minutes. Now the housekeeper had said he was here for approximately 15 to 20 minutes. So that matches her testimony that he was visiting his mom for 20 minutes. At 9:43:59 or 9:44, it's taken out of park again, and it's placed back into park at 10 o'clock. So that's another 16 minutes that the vehicle is probably being driven back to Moselle. Then at 10:01, it's taken out of park. That's 10:01 and 17. 10:01 and 29, it's put into park. That's 12 seconds. So the next few are seconds intervals. At 10:01, it was taken out of park. That's 10:01:30. 13 seconds later, it's put back into park. 10:04:44, the system was powering down. 10:04:49, the truck is taken out of park. 10:05, the truck is put back into park. Now, at 10:11, it's taken out of park. 10:12, it's put back into park. 10:13, it's taken out of park, and the vehicle stopped recording at that point. So, which he said is a glitch. It's sometimes that happens. So I can only assume that those seconds and minutes were, he said when he got home, he realized that they weren't in the house. So maybe he just, it took him only seconds to realize that, and he puts it back into, out of park, goes down to the kennels, which probably didn't take anything but a few seconds. He sees the bodies. He gets back into his truck, drives back to the house. These are all things that he says he did. Drives back to the house, gets the gun, comes back to the kennel. So these pretty much match up with his alibi. Everything, all these times kind of match up with his alibi. Yeah, very, very interesting. Very interesting. So that is where it was left off for the day. Now, we don't have any information about who made the bomb threat. We know it was through a phone call, or whether they were apprehended or anything like that. But when court resumed this morning, it was with the cross-examination of this FBI agent on these times, which, like I said, was very confusing. Because you can't... I'm really surprised the judge even allowed this. Usually when you're going to have an expert testify, it has to be to generally accepted sciences, and this guy developed this program, and is this really generally accepted? We don't even know what this means, and I don't know. I don't know. I'm assuming the defense didn't object because it matches up to his alibi. So that why object? So, frankly, I didn't know that the infotainment center could give you so much information, but it can. All right, guys, that is the show, except we didn't do the crime calendar. We're going to do the crime calendar. Yesterday, we talked about the cold case of the murder of Irene Garza. As you recall, on April 16th, 1960, she went to her church and she never came home. They later found her body. She had been beaten, raped, and suffocated. It took them 57 years before they would find a suspect. And that happened in, where did that happen? Texas. McAllen, Texas. So let's talk about the investigation of that crime. So suspicion quickly fell upon John Fate, the priest who heard Irene Garza's confession shortly after the last time she was seen alive. The evidence against Fate was substantial. Witnesses said he had left the church several times on the night of Garza's murder, returning with his eyeglasses broken and scratches covering his hands. Investigators also found Fate's photo slide viewer in the canal where Garza's body was found. However, Fate was not initially charged with Garza's murder. 3 weeks earlier, Fate had also been implicated in the rape of a woman who was kneeling at the communion rail of another church in the area. He was later tried for that crime, and after a mistrial, he pleaded no contest to aggravated assault and paid a $500 fine. After the trial, Fate was transferred to an abbey, then to a treatment center for troubled priests. Fate left the priesthood in the 1970s, married, and had 3 children. The Garza case would remain stalled for another 30 years. What? Okay, we're going to get part 3 tomorrow. The slow road to justice. Okay, that's the show for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure you hit that thumbs up button. It looks like this. It helps the YouTube algorithm and lets me know you enjoyed the program. Also, leave me a comment. I read all my comments. I'm glad you guys are enjoying the contents, and I will see you tomorrow. Consider subscribing, too. Also, share this program with someone you might think would enjoy listening to it while they do their crafts, right? Take care, everybody. Bye.